Hi guys, thank you once again for joining into the Left Out podcast. We just want to make a quick trigger warning for the next episode that's just going to be released. So for anybody who has had any experiences with mental health or sexual abuse, please just be aware that there's topics of that nature that are going to be discussed in this episode. Thank you. Hello. Welcome back to the Left Out podcast. It is your local bad girl, your local stallion, Miss Chira.
It's Fevs.
And it's Naz.
Today is a super exciting day. In celebration of Mental Health Week, we reached out to a well-known advocate here in Perth, someone who has a lot of exciting things that she's doing, someone who is very inspirational, inspires myself, even my sisters who are part of the Left Out podcast. So we have our third guest. We would like to introduce fourth. Is it number 4?
Oh, wait. So I think meant the fourth guest, like here. Oh. I did the fourth member.
This girl's signing to me across the room. No, this is number 3. This is the third guest.
My bad.
Lucky number 3.
Lucky number 3. 3 times is a charm. So if she would like to introduce herself, I'll take the light away and put the limelight on you,
Take
girl.
the lead.
Hey guys. It's always so awkward to introduce myself. But hi everybody. My name is Rumbiie Mzengi. What you wanna know?
Tell us everything.
Go.
Everything. Start from the beginning.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited. I love you guys. So I love listening to you guys. I'm really excited to be here today. It's
Awesome.
really
We're
cool.
super excited to have you. Super
So excited. We've wanted from the beginning.
Yes.
Like when we started like this podcast and we were planning, we're like, we need to have her on.
For sure.
thank you.
No,
Definitely
for real. We've mentioned it so many times.
Definitely.
It's been in our group chat so many times.
I'm glad to finally be here.
Yeah. It's just perfect sense because, as we all know, like Mental Health Week commences, I think, October 9th to the 16th. So it was
That's
like
right.
perfect timing.
Literally like in 9 days.
Yeah. So it was like perfect timing for you to come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've already I've seen you at like a few events and I've heard you speak and you've always been so inspirational.
Yeah.
You know?
Thank you guys.
No, it's dope. Like, I feel like this is definitely a space where we wanted a voice like yours. So, yeah, again, we're really excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here.
But just like as a general question, how's you guys' week been going? How are we doing?
I'm pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah. Pretty like unmemorable, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here today.
You're like, what happened?
Pretty standard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a alright week. I'm a little bit unwell, but you know, it's been alright.
You're sounding
Yeah.
better though.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, for
Sound
sure. You're
much
definitely
better.
sounding better. Like when I saw it the other day, I was like, sis,
Oh
stay
yeah,
away
I
from
was
me.
dying. I was dying. I gave a pre-warning. I was like, don't get afraid.
Yeah. No, but you're definitely sounding better. How about you, Rumbiie? How's your week
I've
been?
good. So I was telling you before that I've been taking care of my friend's little 4-year-olds. That
Yeah.
was fun. Went and got my COVID shot yesterday.
Okay. How'd you go?
Yeah. So I was okay, but I ended up having an anxiety attack.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah. Much later on, and I was talking to a friend of mine. He's a nurse, so I was freaking out, and I'm like, I think I'm dying. And everyone's like, "Stop! You're being dramatic." I'm like, "No," but I was sick. I was really weak, and my heart was just like beating the whole entire
Damn,
time.
instantly.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh no, not instantly. So about 2.5 hours later on.
After,
Yeah.
Once I'd gotten home, but then he also just kind of said it's really mental. I think just the
Yeah,
idea
I was
that-
about to say that.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's such an uncertain thing that we're having to do.
Yeah.
And it feels weird. So I think maybe that's probably why I end up with the anxiety attack.
Yeah.
But my week has been great. I've been good.
That's
That's
crazy.
good.
But I get you though. When I got my first shot, I was definitely very anxious.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I avoided it for a very long period of time.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely like anxiety provoking because again, like, you know, you don't really know what it is you're putting in your body in it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
And I feel
And the
like
hype
it's
around
fine.
it.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
the hype around it, you know.
That's the thing, like, because everybody's so split up, like,
Yeah.
nobody, like, you either have people that are pro it,
Yeah.
but still don't know, because the only reason why most people are pro-vax at the moment is because we're having to,
Yeah.
Yeah.
not because we actually want to.
Yeah.
So I think when I got it, I was like, okay, it's fine. And then I literally remember, like, sitting in the car, and I was like, what if I start mutating?
You
I was
become
like, "Oh, you ain't gonna
magnetic.
do that.
No, I completely get that. Like,
Yeah, I'm nervous.
have you not had your
Have
first
you
I
one?
haven't had mine yet.
I'm
but-
fully vaxxed. I even got like, yeah.
That's good, yeah.
So you did your part of the assignment, girl.
I did my part of the
I
assignment.
She passed the assignment.
Got
Yeah.
straight A's, you know.
Yeah.
Well, like my week has just been very normal, but today, guys, today was a very wild day. I spilt petrol on myself.
Oh shit! I forgot about that.
What?
That just happened today.
That happened today. I was on my way to work. I was already late, and then I was at the petrol station because, like, I got in my car and I was like, "Damn, it's flashing 10 kilometers. I need to put fuel in." It was proper flashing. Like, I feel like I've just been so switched off this week. I didn't even realize. So then, like, my car's flashing. I was like, okay, fuck, let me go put some more fuel in my car. Get to the petrol station. I'm putting fuel. And the thing freaking explodes. Like, it's literally like I'm putting the oil in. And, like, I go to take it out because, like, it's filled up. And then, like, look, I could have still been holding the trigger. Who knows? But
Oh my god!
You put it all over yourself.
it literally went all over me.
Oh man, someone
then-
just needed a lighter match.
Bro, do you know it gets worse? I slipped and I fell in the
Shut up.
What do you mean?
like
At the petrol station.
Man, I would be dying to see that CCTV.
man.
That would make me die of laughter.
no, there's this old man who was in his car. He fully lost it. Like
I would have.
he
So you
literally-
slipped and fell on petrol.
I slipped and fell on
Oh my
petrol.
God.
And
Oh
this
my
old man
God.
literally was sitting in his car and he was cackling. Like he lost
Flammable.
it.
Did you go to work?
Yeah. Yeah,
Smell
I
like
went
petrol?
home.
You went home, yeah? Showered?
Quickly, like wiped up, showered, got
Yeah.
changed. But yeah, I still like felt like I stunk of it. Like
Yeah,
it
it's
was
probably in
proper.
the pause.
And even like when I got to work, people were like, yeah, it smells like someone's been putting
Oh,
varnish in the door.
Always that one.
Damn.
It was forced, man. It was forced. And the girl I was working with today just kept saying, you smell like petrol. Like the whole day. The whole day today, I have been clowned at work. Like every single
Did you
person
tell them
was
the
clowning.
story?
Yeah, I told them the story.
That would have
Man, there's
like
nothing
it's
worse
laughable.
than falling down in public.
It's
Yeah,
worse.
that's
It's
Like,
horrible.
especially during the day, like when you can't blame
traumatizing.
alcohol.
In the-
Oh, that's all. And there's a crowd too.
you
Nah,
know?
man.
At a petrol station.
I just laugh.
Oh, yeah, that
I
too. That
laugh
definitely-
so
yeah.
that,
I feel like
you know.
if he'd asked me, are you okay? We could have laughed about it together.
Nah, not
but
in those
like I really
moments.
felt like, you know, like on The Simpsons, there's that guy that points. It's like, ha ha.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I can't even
What's his
lie.
name? Nelson.
I would have done
Nelson.
the
Yeah.
same thing. I can't lie. I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, literally, I would have
100%.
cried.
I
of
would have
laughter.
cried. I couldn't control. You can't control laughter.
Yeah,
Right.
like
You see that.
come on. Like, you stay at a petrol station minding your business and you see somebody pour petrol on themselves and then fall. That's comedy at its finest.
You can't make that shit
Somebody
up.
should have made you go viral.
I wish.
Yeah, honestly,
Yeah,
you would have been
somebody should-
viral.
Get the footage. Get the footage.
I don't want the footage.
No,
I'm
get it.
traumatized.
You're gonna make it.
I'm
bro.
traumatized.
Hit them up.
So you need to get it.
No, you get it from them.
Nah,
You might
man.
just go viral.
That's so funny.
That's
Oh my
not the
God.
Ellen. Wait.
Sitting down with Ellen. Like,
For real, man. But
Oh my
yeah, I
God.
feel like that's just topped my week. I don't think it can get worse from here. Like, what could
I
go
don't want
wrong?
to say that.
yeah, I know, right?
It's
Oh
only
my God.
Wednesday or Thursday.
You know what I mean? It's only Thursday. So 3 more days go.
So, Rumbiie, tell us like about yourself, like some of your entrepreneurship roads that you've been taking. What inspired you to get there?
Jesus, that's been a long road.
Yeah.
So in terms of like business and stuff, my first business was actually when I was 15.
Okay.
15 or 16. I started doing hair. So my friend and I, her name is Izzy Furrow. So if anybody wants to check her out, please do. She's doing amazing. So yeah, my first business, I was 16. I started doing hair, and then about 17 or 18, when we got Instagram, like I think it was like the first year when Instagram came out,
Yeah.
I had like an online clothing boutique. That didn't last so long because I used to eat all the money that I Ciao. I just wanted bags and shoes. That's all I wanted. But
Simple
yeah.
life.
Yeah, I get
literally,
that. Soft
just,
life.
Just wanted to have fun.
Yeah.
So from then on, when I moved to, so I did hair I was doing hair plus working obviously, and then school and whatever.
Yeah.
And then the clothing brand that lasted for about 6 months. Died down really quickly, poor management skills. And then from then on, I moved to Sydney. I continued to do hair, and I was working as a stylist. And then when I moved to Perth in 2014,
Yeah.
I then trained as a makeup artist, became a makeup artist, and then that's been like my road for a while. I've doubled in, I had a catering company with a friend at some point.
Yeah.
Did not go down great. Sorry for another day. And then from there, I started doing events.
Okay.
And then I think a year ago, 2020, I then set up Sip and Dream events, which is the networking, and then that's going to move to a different direction coming next year. And then last year, I set up the makeup brand, and I've kind of stayed at that.
Wow.
At the moment.
That resume is nice.
That is a nice resume, nice and thick.
It's very
I wish it came with millions.
Wow.
That's amazing though.
That is amazing.
Thank you. Thank
That
you.
is like, so what have you learned from your journey so far? Like, because I guess it's still going. What have you learned and what are you learning?
So much. I think what I'm really learning now is firstly, like I'm just realizing how much sometimes, and I don't know if this is just a me thing or if this is like a collective migrant kids thing. I think sometimes we don't see how much we're actually building legacies around us. Like we see things like even with you guys with the podcast, it seems like a podcast right now, but if you think about it 5 years from now, if you guys stay, this is culture, this is what's going to define like the Perth vibe and the Perth
That's it,
culture.
sister.
You know what I mean?
Damn.
Like
Word.
you guys are the ones that in however long time, like if Anaka Glam brings out a new line, like you guys will be the ones that will be calling to come to things. Like that's what I'm getting excited by now, that I'm realizing so many of us are doing things and it's hard.
Yeah.
It takes long to make the money, but I think the part where we all miss out on is the fact that we're literally building legacies.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff that gets me excited at the moment. So that's my biggest lesson right now.
That is so
That's
amazing.
dope.
I love that's a great perspective.
It is.
Because you don't see it, but that's literally what we're doing. And I don't know if you guys follow Fufu.
Fufu and Tibbs?
Yeah, the fact that they were pretty much the first black women with the podcast to do a deal with Nike.
Yeah.
Dope.
That's crazy. I didn't even know that.
So
They
dope.
were.
Yeah.
Oh,
So if you
wow.
think about it that way,
Good on them. What the fuck? That's amazing.
Right?
I had no
amazing.
idea.
It
Wow.
is. When I saw it, I was like, wait, what? I think that's when for me, like my mentality changed.
Yeah.
Because a lot of things that we do now, because of the temperature in Perth, number one in Australia, and then also being black young people,
Yeah.
we don't quickly get paid, doesn't quickly catch
Yeah.
up to the
That's
money.
it. Yeah.
And it can get hard. Like, yeah.
Girl.
Definitely.
That part. So yeah, I guess for me that's just been the thing that's really changed my mentality around things. I'm just like, even if the money's not coming in and rolling in the way that we want it to now, we just have to keep on going for the sake of
Yeah.
building
Yeah.
the
That's it.
systems.
Consistency.
I agree because I think a lot of people have like short term views and
Yes.
don't like if something doesn't like if you don't get a return within 6 months, people kind of let go of that dream
That's it.
or
Yes.
that passion or whatever. And it's like
Yeah.
things might come in a year or two or maybe 5, hopefully not.
And I think
But you know, it's you've got to wait.
And I think also, obviously, like no one's ever talking about like the journey, like the hard parts.
Yeah,
everyone,
that's it.
Everyone always talks about it when they made it, and it
Yeah.
just seems so easily like
Attainable.
Like they only care
and
about
then
the
when you try to
destination.
do it, and you're like, damn, man, I didn't know this would happen, and this would happen, and this would
Yeah.
happen. And it's like really like hard.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah, definitely.
I think you're definitely correct. It's really important to look at that. The fact that you've started something, the fact you've even had the
Yeah.
confidence to actually just pick yourself up and do it.
Yeah.
That's a massive, massive, massive thing.
and you don't even
Yeah.
realize how many people are like watching you as well, and just like,
Yeah.
like man, if she can do it, I can do it.
That's
like
it,
being
man.
inspired.
That's
like
it.
it's yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the thing. Like now, I guess now because I'm also open and like going out, like you send me out last time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, let me go out, and it's nice to like it's overwhelming, but it's been a nice experience that has brought me back into myself in a way.
Okay.
Where I go out and like I'll meet somebody that I don't even know like that, and they're just
Yeah.
like, oh my god, like you
Yeah.
really inspire me. And I go, oh wait, hang on. So that's when I kind of started realizing like we don't see it. Like I just told you guys, somebody messaging me and saying, let them know like we're a huge fan. We
Yeah.
don't see it, but literally people are getting inspired by us doing the smallest of things. So
Yeah.
Definitely.
I've always been like inspired by your entrepreneurship and how you're like a go-getter.
For sure.
Even like I was saying before, how I've seen you at so many events, and like something that I've always admired as well is like how open you are about your like mental health journey.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So it's a very long story.
We
Let
have
me try and
time.
cut it up. So I'll just like give context to obviously like what I felt had contributed to the place that I ended up in, which was in 2018. ended up I became very suicidal. And out of that came me then actually attempting, and then me ending up in hospital for 3 months. And then from then on, even in hospital, I attempted a few times as well. And then I came out, and I guess when I came out, it just really made me look at life differently. Like, it really shocked me, because I think we always know how dark things are inside of us. And we always have this fear of letting it get too far. So every time you feel yourself sleeping, every time I felt myself sleeping, I'll pull myself back. But I don't think I ever realized how much pain I was in until I literally had to like be in a hospital bed 3 months, and having doctors actually tell me like the things that have been going on in your head, like the trauma, etc., the pain, like it's actually real. Because I think for me, I never acknowledged that. I'm such a strong person. I like being, a boss ass bee. I'm gangster. I don't like crying. So I never really acknowledged a lot of things that I was going through up until then. But to give a background story, I was sexually abused when I was 5 years old. And it happened a few more times after that, up until a certain age. And I guess for me as a young person, I don't know what it was, but now I understand that's how your brain reacts to trauma sometimes. It just never brought it up. So I never spoke about it. I never got help. None of that ever happened. And I remember the very first time, it was my second week in Perth. It was on January 10th. And I was literally driving on the freeway to go to church. And I was praying. I remember just saying to God, and I was like, yo, like, I'm sad. I don't know what the hell is going on, but something is wrong. Like, can you just point me out? Like, if it's me, because I've always been a person who looks to me first to fix things and fix myself. So in my head, I was like, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm failing. Maybe I'm not doing something right in my life. Like, show me what it is. And I literally remember just having flashback after flashback. And I was like, nah. That's not me.
Yeah,
I was like, that's not me. I don't know who you're talking about, but that's not me. And I just kind of blocked it out. But then what happened was literally from 2014, the worst versions of things that happen in life have been happening to me. So the first, I think about 6 months later on, my grandmother passed away. And I did the same thing. I was like, okay, grandmother has passed away. My mom's not okay. Let me take care of my mom. And I went into that mode. So I didn't deal with that. And I remember like 3 days afterwards, and I went to work, and I just lost it. Like, I was playing a song that she used to play, like a Roman Catholic song, and I just lost it, like completely lost it. I was crying. I was not okay at all. And I went to work, and my manager at that time was like, you're actually not okay. Like, I don't know why you came to work, but you need to go home. And I was like, nah, girl, I'm fine. Decided to end up going home. And I just remember sitting in my car, and I was like, I need to talk to somebody. And I Googled, I found a therapist. What's that place called?
Headspace?
Headspace, yeah. It was Headspace in General Lab, and I remember going in there. So when I went there, I thought I was going to talk about how I just lost my grandmother. But I literally remember sitting in the room, and for almost an hour, I cried. And the stuff that came out was the rape. That was the stuff that came out. And that was the first time where she went, this is what has happened to me. And I remember the lady like giving me all this information and all these things, but it just didn't click at that time. So once again, I brushed it off. I said, girl, this is not you. Ignore it. Let's move on. Moved on. Things happened, got into a relationship, the breakdown of that relationship up until 2018. It was probably the first time where I went, okay, let's just acknowledge it. Like, let's just acknowledge the fact that it happened. And I started to, but the problem was I didn't speak to anyone. It was all stuff that was going on in my head. So, when your flashbacks are coming up, when the feelings are coming up and you don't know how to deal with it. And being 25, I was like, okay, we're going to start drinking. So I was already drinking, but it was normal drinking and, maybe going crazy once in a while. But at that time, it was almost every single night because now my insomnia kicked in. I couldn't sleep. I was hyper alert as well. So I was working double shifts plus my business. I never used to sit down at all. I was always on the go. And before I knew it, it literally was maybe 4 months of me just going into a rabbit hole until one day my friend caught me cutting, and he just said, listen, I need to come over to your house. He came over to my house at 4 a.m. and he was like, you've got two choices. Monday, you go to the hospital, you go to the doctors, you talk to a doctor, or I will literally call your parents.
Wow.
Yeah. I was living by myself at that time. So when he said that, I was like, okay, snap. If people around me can see how much I'm deteriorating, then something's definitely wrong. Went to the doctors the next day, told the doctor. It didn't take her time. She was like, you've got signs of depression, PTSD, trauma. Where do you want to start? And I was like, okay, I can go for counseling. Went for the first counseling session. I remember like at the end, the lady, I hadn't even mentioned being suicidal, but I remember her being like, do you feel suicidal? And I was like, no, I'm sorry. I was like, that's demons. What you talking about? Like, sis, I'm not possessed. And I was like, no, I don't feel suicidal.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay. And I remember her saying to me, well, I'm just going to put you on a health watch instead. So now imagine being a young black girl who has had what seemingly from the outside looks like a good life. Like your parents, you know, took you to the best schools. Then you come to Australia and, you know, you're driving a nice car. You've got a nice job. You're making money. You're living in a nice apartment. And then somebody's telling you you're suicidal. I was like, why would I be suicidal? Like, that doesn't make any sense. So I ignored the help, and she would literally send people to my house, and I would be like, I'm fine. And they would notice the cards, and I'd be like, oh, no, that's nothing. Da, 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 da. And I just remember one day driving. It was around 3 a.m. I'd been drinking, and I went for a drive. And I passed, but it was actually here in this, the Victoria, what's it called?
Vic Park.
Vic Park Lane, yeah. The one that goes down all the way to the Tonkin Highway. And I remember like driving up, and we were at an intersection. I was coming at an intersection, and then like a car went in front of me. And we could have had a head-on collision. And instead of me being like, thank God that didn't happen, I remember screaming and saying to God, why wouldn't you just let me go?
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
And that was the first time where I was like, I remember my heart literally breaking. So I drove, I parked at Crown, and I remember just sitting there and I was like, I don't get this. Like, I feel miserable. I feel like I've been miserable my whole life. I don't remember much of my childhood. I don't remember much of my own memories. I'm not happy. I don't remember a time where I've ever actually recalled being happy, and I don't know what's wrong. And I remember calling my friend the next day, and I told her, and it was funny because we were arguing. It was a time where a big short pastor from America had passed away due to suicide. And I remember my friend being so upset, and she was like, it's so selfish, why would anybody ever do that? And I remember snapping at her, and I was like, it's not selfish, you could never understand. And she just went, what's going on? But she just didn't understand where I was coming from.
Yeah.
Then I opened up to her, and she was there, thank God, but she just didn't know as well what to say.
What to say,
so
what to do.
we left it at, things are gonna be fine. Like, you be okay. Let's keep on praying. Da, 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 da. Unfortunately, a few days later, I had my birthday party, and I had, for the first time, invited like 50 people. I don't like parties. Y'all probably have, I think you've only ever seen me out like maybe 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And I've been in Perth for like almost 7 years now.
Yeah.
Don't like parties, don't like crowds. But that time for my birthday, had like 50 people. And I remember being at my birthday and like looking around, and everybody was having fun. And I was sad, and I was suicidal. And I was like, how does that happen, that like you can be around so many people and nobody can see how much you're hurting? Yeah. And I remember going home feeling so alone because no one around me had seen how sad or depressed I was. Went home and I just made my mind then. Then the next day I went out and bought stuff and came back home. And I didn't call anyone. I didn't write any letter. I just said, that's it. I'm good to go. And I then attempted for the first time. And lucky enough for me, my friend called me and we were talking. And then she instantly, as soon as I picked up the phone, she was like, what's wrong? Because my voice was so low. And I remember her just pressing on, like, what's wrong? I didn't tell her. I didn't want to tell her. And then after that, my friend called my other friend, who then said, I don't know if you knew this, but this is what happened last time I went to her house. You need to call the police. They called the police, called the ambulance. By the time the police came, I was already getting out of my becoming unconscious. The police came. They asked me questions. I had blood pretty much dripping. And then they took me to the hospital. I woke up the next morning. And the doctor that I spoke to, he just came up to me and he was like, you're so young. for you to feel like this, so something has to be wrong. You need help. And I was like, no, I'm okay, I'll figure it out. And he said, no, you actually need help. If you've gone to this lengths to do this, you need help. So from then on, I then agreed to going to being committed into a mental hospital. And that's pretty much like where my mental health awareness journey really started from, just me going through that.
Wow.
Those 3 months, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was, wow.
Yeah.
Like, how did you, if you don't mind me asking, from your first attempt to now, how did you get to this stage in your life?
I don't know.
Because there is, like, when you overcome something and become an advocate for it, I find it so powerful.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, like, what made you want to advocate and speak about your
lived
life?
experience.
Yeah.
For me, the reason why I started speaking was because I remember like maybe a month before, because I was raised as Christian, but at that time I'd actually stopped going to church and sort of identifying with Christianity. And I remember like a month before I made that decision, I was at church, and this girl who was like a little sister to me came up to me, started praying for me. And I'd written in my notes, that God, if I can't save myself, help me to save other people. So for me, I guess when I came out of that situation, my mentality was I was too far gone. That's how I saw myself. I thought, you're too far gone, but you can save other people. So I went into save everybody else mode. And lucky enough as well, at the time where I started talking about mental health, it was a time where our community, the Zimbabwean community, desperately needed it. Yeah. Because the time where I came out of hospital, by the time that, because I came out of hospital in October, by the time that we reached November, I'd attended 4 deaths of young people due to suicide. There were 3 that I didn't attend due to suicide. So for me, that put me into, I guess now I understand it as a panic mode of, if you got lucky, there's no way that you can let other people fall off. And that's why I kind of went into it with, I didn't care. Yeah. It wasn't about me. That's why I didn't hold back. People around me were shocked that I would even talk about things like that, because the people around me had never, my friends that I'd known for 10 years did not know that I went through sexual abuse. They didn't know half of the things that I spoke about. Yeah. They didn't know that I was struggling. They never knew, because I've always been somebody who keeps it all inside. But I think for me at that point, I didn't care about me. It wasn't about my feelings, about my pride. It was just a fact of, there's 7 people that died instead of you. And there's no other reason why you would have made it other than for you to speak up. And that was just what I did. I just said, well, I'm going to speak up. And that's pretty much why I did it.
Yeah, I think it's so important, especially for African community. Like, there's such a stigma with mental health, and to even speak on it. And I feel like it's so important for us to break down those barriers.
That's right.
Yeah. Do you think there's ways where we can tackle those, like, that stigma and help break those barriers with mental health?
There is, because what I'm seeing now and what I've experienced in the last 2-3 years is there's such a, when it comes to the African community, so I feel like when it comes to other communities, right? Yeah. It's so easy for them to point out where their problems come from. Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like that's the thing with white people. They have labels for everything. They know, it, like they can name it. But then when it comes to us, my thing has now become, we can't even speak about the hurt that we've experienced with the countries that we come from. Yeah. Trauma. We can't even speak about the trauma that we've experienced from being children who had grandfathers, parents who existed through war, through colonization, etc. That's right. So how do we even begin to start talking about the seemingly smaller stuff? Yeah. You know, and I think that's what the biggest struggle with us is, because to be able to unpack your hurt, you can't unpack the basic stuff. You have to go down deeper for us to actually heal. And I find that that's what the biggest problem is. And that's why even our parents sometimes can't relate, because they've come from parents who went through war, and then we come out and we're like, oh yeah, I'm sad, but why are you sad? Yeah. You know, and that's where the disconnect.
But I think also as well is that they haven't identified their own, you know, like, because they haven't had the tools. Yes. They haven't been able to identify their own
we don't have the language.
We don't.
We just don't have the language. Like you said, like Australian or white people can label everything.
They can label a lot of
But
things.
we
We
can't.
can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
We can't, because we've never been allowed to.
Yeah.
Like, they can talk about, you
Yeah.
know, alcoholism, but where we come from, you can't, like, what label do we have for the trauma that people experience through colonization? None.
And even
That's
things
it.
like sexual abuse and
Yeah.
like
But I think it's because also massively in our culture, a lot of these things get swept under the rug because of shame.
Shame, yeah.
Like, it's a massive factor of, like, when your child isn't doing well, they feel as if it reflects on them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it's really unfortunate, like, speaking even just from Zim community, it comes from, like, you're scared that the aunties are going to judge you.
Yes.
And you're scared that you've got this perception, like, you've made yourself look in a certain light,
Yes.
that all of these people are now going to be looking and saying, you failed as a parent. Yeah.
And we're so small, like, our communities are so small as well. I remember, like, a lot of people saying to me, like, are you not scared that you won't be able to find a husband?
Wow.
And even though that sounds like a why would you say that, it is a real fact.
Yeah.
Because once you've got the label of mental health on you,
Yeah.
or somebody who's been depressed, somebody who's gone to hospital for that, that is a fact that could stop somebody else from wanting you. And
Yeah.
if there's like 50
it's very
guys,
true.
Oh my God, that's so
You
true.
know?
Yeah.
So even though to us it's like, why would I care? The fact is those things matter to them, and they look at things like that. Unfortunately, they have to. So
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people always like encouraging people to be open, things like that. It's celebrated. But then as soon as you do, you're like, okay, let me be open, let me be vulnerable, let me tell people my experience.
Yeah.
So because I know, like, I'm going through something. I know I'm not the only person going through something. Like, I know everyone around me is also. But then it's like
Used against you.
used
That's
against you, and
It
you're
is.
right. You do get that stigma, like,
It
oh,
is.
that girl's depressed.
Yeah.
Oh, that girl, yeah.
It's very frustrating. And even when I started speaking up, I think for me what kept me going was like, I remember the first time when I posted, when I tell you, like, my Instagram blew off, my Facebook blew off.
Wow.
And what really stood out for me, why I guess I stuck onto the journey, was it wasn't just young people. Because I think had it been young people, I'd have been like, oh, maybe we're spoiled. Maybe there's something wrong with us.
Yeah.
I literally had
Yeah.
men in their 50s with 4 kids that I grew up with saying to me, thank you so much for talking about this. I don't know
Yeah.
if anybody has ever said this to you. Thank you, because I don't know where else to go. Where can I go? I had moms reaching out to me like,
Yeah.
where can I go to get help? Thank you for speaking about this. And that's what
Wow.
really showed me that a lot of us are suffering. It's just
Yeah.
unfortunate that we don't feel safe enough
Yeah.
to be able to
speak.
discuss this.
Yeah.
Things.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's also an aspect of, like, as Black people, we have this conditioning that vulnerability is weakness?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because, like, it just makes you, like, for example, I can even use myself as an example. I really hate showing that, like, something has really knocked me and gotten to me.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's just the way that, like, as an individual, I've been conditioned as a Black person.
Yeah.
Because society looks at us and says, you can't be weak. You've
Yeah.
been through struggle, angry Black woman. There's, like, a lot of, like, brackets that you're placed into.
Negative connotations.
Yeah, that don't allow you to actually just let your wall down and just be
Definitely.
vulnerable.
Yeah, that's so true.
Damn.
Wow. Do you think, like, being that now, okay, like in Australia, do you think that the healthcare system helps the African community in a sense with mental illness? Or if not, how can they?
The healthcare system in Australia doesn't even really help people that actually are going through that on a general state.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the Africans,
We're at the bottom of
it's
the
a
barrel.
joke.
Yeah.
It's an absolute joke. They don't even help Aboriginals.
That's,
They don't.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's just
That's
a
true.
fact.
No, 100%.
You know, and
100%.
unfortunately, like, to be taken seriously when it comes to suicide, you have to have attempted.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like if you go to like
So
a
crazy
hospital
to me.
and
You have
say,
to be
"I
completely
feel,"
far gone.
yeah, you have to be completely
That's
far.
so
Like
crazy.
they wait
Yeah.
until you're completely far
Yeah.
gone for them to step in. That's when it's like, okay. And with the stepping in as well, it's always medication,
Yeah.
admission. Once you're out, you're out. That's it. Nobody cares to follow up. And I don't know if that's a situation where we're just like that as society. Like maybe we're just not patient.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is that would have to change, but we are definitely at the bottom of the barrel. So yeah, it's not a lot of help there.
What was it,
Wow.
if without going too deep, in your hospital experience, did you find it to beneficial, or was it? Did you come out of it kind of
I definitely did.
better, or?
I definitely did. I mean, the first few days felt like I was on the set of Pretty Little what's it called? That
Liars.
series, Spirit of Liars. Like,
You're speaking Naz's language right now.
Talk to me.
It literally felt like that. You know how they always used to, what's her name? The girl.
Mona?
Yeah. She
Oh,
always-
wow. Like that.
It really
Jesus.
felt
Okay,
like that
wow.
girl. It was really good, I think, for me, because I genuinely believe in being able to name things now. Being able to say this is what this is, because I feel like it helps you compartmentalize things. It helps you understand things better.
Yeah.
Yep.
So for me, what being in hospital did, number one, was it slowed me the fuck down.
Okay.
There was nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
And worse, when I then had the second and third attempt, there was now nowhere to go. It was now like, okay, well, you're clearly not okay, so you're going to be here until you're done, like until you're better. And the good thing was, you know, being able to have access. That's the one thing that I do love about Australia, the fact that everything is free.
Yeah.
So still being able to have a good psychiatrist to sit down with you, still being able to have like 8-10 doctors, it makes things become a bit more real. Because I think when you're experiencing depression, anxiety, there are things that you can't physically see. Like you don't have a wound that grows up on your skin and you go, okay, yeah, that's what depression looks like.
Yeah.
So kind of having that many professionals to you makes you go, there's no way that these people will be getting paid to come and see me and spend time with me if this wasn't real. So it allowed me to then listen to them. Then they do the CT scans. They really do, in terms of being able to take you through the tests and stuff like that, they really do that for you.
That's so true, because I feel like with mental health, everyone thinks that they can diagnose themselves.
No, you can't.
If it was other symptoms, like if it was something related to your stomach, we don't diagnose that.
No.
That's right.
But with mental health, without seeing a professional, people will be like, I know that I suffer from depression or anxiety. Like on some real shit
like,
though.
that's
But like,
you're not capping.
people
That's
don't
not
realize
cap,
that in order for you to be diagnosed with these things, like you said, there are certain tests that are to be done.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it's also what you assume depression may look like, may not. It doesn't all appear the same way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it.
Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that's so true. People need to definitely check and get
Because there's a danger of misdiagnosing yourself. Like you can call it depression, but maybe it's bipolar. You can call it depression, maybe it's schizophrenia. You can call it this. And that's my thing with our generation as well, especially with the internet. How we laugh about everything.
Yeah.
Now I like that because sometimes it's too much. Sometimes
You
talking about
take it light.
you gotta take it light. But I also feel like we romanticize it so much that no, I've got anxiety.
Yes.
But I'm sorry, if you've been saying you've got anxiety for 3 years, girl, get on medication.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? Like you can't keep on, like it's like saying I can't see. At some point you're gonna have to go get an eye test and find out what's actually wrong and get a prescription. So I think that's part of what we lack as young people, and because it becomes such a norm to go, oh God, you've got anxiety? Oh yeah, I do. But it's like, okay, but if we're all having anxiety, like can we all get on medication? Can we all go see therapists? Can we all like
So true.
It's true.
Can we all
I
heal?
completely agree.
You know?
I completely agree. I feel like our generation is very good at romanticizing things, and it's almost like it's something that's on trend.
Yes.
And it actually means that people who, not saying that these people aren't genuinely suffering from genuine mental health illness, but it actually means that the people who are really struggling and aren't actually speaking up about it can get missed.
They can.
But I also think it's a way like where people just like to make themselves feel better. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, it
To be
doesn't look
included.
like, and also like to make it look like they're not fully struggling. Like, like it's no big deal. I have anxiety. Everybody has anxiety, you know? Like,
Downplay.
true.
That's true as well.
Yeah, and I understand why we do that. Like it's
I
a
get
big
it
thing
too.
to deal with, honestly. So it makes sense why we do that.
Do you feel like with your own lived experience, you like made a difference within like Zim community?
Honestly, no.
Really?
It's hard to see. This is something that so part of obviously like having trauma, PTSD, whatever is, it affects so much of your personality. And also how you see yourself. That's something that I've struggled with so much. So even me saying no, it's not because I don't. So other people will probably have a different view. It's just that it's hard to see what impact looks like when you can't measure it.
Okay.
I can't speak to every single person and say, did you get inspired? Did you feel some type of way? So it's hard to see what you're actually doing. I think the only thing for me is the amount of times that after I spoke up, other people started speaking up and workshops were done. That's probably the only thing that I can see as having made impact. But it's hard to measure social change around issues like that. Like it's really hard, but you know.
Well, no, I understand what you're saying. But like in regards to like when you were telling your story, you were saying that like a big factor that played part in your life then was your faith. If you don't mind me asking, where does that stand in your life now?
Girl. I consider myself now as a spiritualist.
Okay.
Sorry to my mom and my dad. They're actually pastors, so I don't think they'll enjoy hearing this. I think for me, I struggled with the idea of a God who I couldn't be honest with.
Okay.
And lately, I've become more of that. So lately, when I don't feel good, I will say it. When I feel upset, I'll say it.
Yeah.
When something happens that I feel like was unfair, I will say it. Because I think that's what we struggle with.
Yeah.
We go to these churches where we're taught like God, like fear him and don't speak up. And then before you know it, you literally start dying down. And you're still meant to be believing. For me, those two things never connected, because how are you supposed to use me as an individual to reach other people if I can't even speak about my pain?
Yeah.
We go to churches where somebody will stand up, they have cancer, and then a pastor will pray for them and say, cancer, go away. It's not going anywhere. Like, where is it supposed to? And I know that miracles happen. And it's weird because it's like, wait, prayer doesn't take it all away. Like, it doesn't. I get that there's miracles out there. I get that God performed miracles, and
I think it's just hope as well, obviously.
Yeah. And it's like,
but you have to have hope and action as well.
You know, and I feel like we have to be realistic with our hope. Not to say you can't heal, but we have to be realistic in the way that we heal as well. I think now, when I stand now as the 29-year-old that I am, and what I've done with my story and stuff like that, to me, that's God healing me.
Amen.
You know, whereas to somebody, healing would have looked like, don't talk about it, don't call it depression, you're fine. To me, that's not healing, because you're not addressing the problem. It's not changing anything. So I'm like,
I'm with you.
So now I'm starting to slowly get my belief in God, only because I've come out on the other side, and I've understood how, even at the times where I didn't see him being there, he was still there in his own ways. But I think for me, where I struggle with Christianity, like I said, number one, we don't talk about things. Christianity promotes dysfunction. Amen. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
It does. Religion, a lot of religion promotes,
period, though.
They do. They promote dysfunction and
dishonesty.
And dishonesty, because we sit there and, you know, we're giving money, we're coming out dressed pretty, this one has this, that car, but people are going home sad.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's more...
It's not the religion. It's not the culture.
It's the congregation. It's the people.
It's the congregation. It's the people that are coming together in that space.
What the Bible says, or whatever faith you are.
It is a little bit of that, but I feel like a lot of it is the pushed, people.
It is, But I also feel like it's the fact that we've been raised to think that way, to think you're not supposed to complain about things.
It's really interesting as well. You go to church and you feel unsafe.
Right? Like, true, man.
Yeah. And it's like,
how can you feel unsafe in like God's place? Because you're like, oh no, look, people are judging me, this and that. I'm not, like, you know.
But then again, that brings me back to the point that we just made, that it's not the issue isn't faith itself. It's not God. It's not like being a Christian or being a spiritualist, whatever you want to call it. The issue is the congregation, the people that are amongst that space. Because I completely agree. I don't know if it's the same for you guys in like Orthodox, but Zim culture has a massive thing of comparison. And especially Zim churches, like, I'm not trying to like call anybody out, but there's this massive comparison culture and this massive competition culture.
Like, you mean within like each other, like people?
So like it'll be a competition like at church of like, oh, my Ningi just got a new Range Rover, and then the next person will say, now I've got a Porsche, and then the next person will say, now I've got a Jaguar. So it's literally like every single person feels like they have to compete. They have to one up the next person.
And you know what? It's toxic for everyone. Even though it's like the mothers and the aunties and the, like, you know, like the older adults that are like inflicting it on the youth now. Like, it's the same thing has been happening to them. It's all they've ever known. They don't know any better, but it's so toxic. It can literally
it destroys
deteriorate
people,
someone, you know, and like they don't understand. A throwaway comment can literally, like, you can go home and it can eat you alive.
It's the same saying, like, going to church doesn't make you a Christian more so than standing in a garage doesn't make you a car.
No.
You know what I mean? Like,
great.
it's so true. People think that if you at church every Sunday, you're top of the list of like all Christian people. That's not.
But I don't know what we can do. Like, what can we do to
break those barriers?
To break them.
Yeah. I think because we know place we need to start is being honest with our parents. Like, I know for me that's something I used to struggle with.
Yeah.
But I think it's so important as adults to start having open and honest conversation about some of the toxic behavior that has been passed down to us, because there's people that are my age that I see like repeating these behaviors and continuing the cycle and continuing the toxic trait. And also I think it's important to educate like our younger generation, like our younger sisters, our younger siblings, our own kids, that it's okay to be vulnerable. Yeah. The only person you should be competing with is yourself. Everybody else is in their own lane. They're running their own race. So it starts with honesty.
I think you have to be honest with yourself. And I think as well, if you can identify, like if you're on your journey and you can identify like what is like wrong, like try to be different. You know what I mean? Like try to be like, all right, if everyone's trying to be like hiding and secretive and stuff, like let me try to be open. Let me try
like
to
Rumbiie. I think it's important, like
lead by example.
Exactly. Perfect way. Just lead by example.
Lead by example and lead by action, man.
Like, you have to. It's hard, but you have to. Like sometimes when I'm on Instagram, I'm like, I want to say something. I'm like, no. But I think for me, like even before when we're talking, I just remembered how I shared something about entrepreneurship, I think a few weeks ago, and then you commented to that. And to me now, it's like even sometimes when you feel like a lot of people aren't listening, it's literally one person. Like that's how I see it now, that it just has to be one person who listens, understands, or hears like the message, and that's enough. Like if you can save one person, or if you can help one person understand themselves better, that's it. Like that's enough. That's
so true.
That's right. So true.
Yeah.
So one thing that like I have like a lot of people ask me, and just like a general question is like, when you see someone that's struggling, like what are the like things that you can do? Like what do you do and what do you not do? Like what do you say? What do you not say? Like do you have any like advice on that?
Don't say you're going to be okay. I hate that word. I hate when people say that. I know it sounds good.
To be honest, yeah,
but it doesn't help a person. Like when you're what I've learned
deflection.
To do, it is. It really, and it's the same thing that our parents do to us. It's the same thing that society has done to us so many times. The same thing that we do to each other. Where somebody says, "I'm not okay." Like nobody ever comes in with a bleeding leg, and then you go, you're going to be fine. Nobody ever does that, because the minute you see blood, the minute you see a bump, the minute you see any abnormality, your mind rushes to go to the hospital. But for whatever reason, when it comes to depression, we're like, girl, you're going to be fine. Everybody goes through that. Girl, people in Africa going through worse. Girl, your cousin. No, that does not matter.
Or could be worse. I hate that one.
And you're like,
it's very dismissive.
It is. So I feel like for me, that's my number one thing. But I always say to people now, ask people what they need and let people lead you. I think for me, that's what some of my friends did, and others were not able to do that. But then we ended up finding a medium where I know I'm down and I know I need somebody to hold my hand and help me walk, whatever. But I still am the driver of this car. Like you don't need to take over me. And I feel like sometimes that's what happens. And it's not always from a place of like, you know, somebody not realizing how capable you are. Sometimes it's just people, that's a way of people helping you sometimes. But what I've come down to now is always ask what people need. Sometimes people literally just need you to sit there and listen. And if you can, then fine, you listen. Sometimes people need you to help them figure out what to do that. But when it comes to a point where it's now become suicidal, I say this all the time, it doesn't matter what their opinion is. It doesn't matter whether they can make that decision or not. Call an ambulance, get somebody in to help them, because it's difficult to see how far gone you are sometimes. Really hard to see how far gone you are sometimes. So I feel like when it comes to a place where they're now suicidal, they're cutting, call an ambulance, call the police, call a doctor, do something. if it's still just them experiencing feelings of suicide or feelings of depression or anxiety, ask them what they need. And usually people can tell you. Even if it's just leave me alone for 3 months, leave them alone for 3 months. It hurts. It sucks. But sometimes people need that. So, yeah, it just depends with the person.
I found it really interesting when you were talking about how when you went to see the psychologist and she was like, are you suicidal? And you're like, no, what do you mean? Because like, you can be suicidal and not know you're suicidal, you know, and that's what's hard because you don't know until you're like very far gone.
And it's like you said before, like I feel like sometimes we as Africans we do this thing where we downplay our situation because we're so like you said, we play this thing where like we're so lucky. Look what our parents have come from, that's and look at us. We have a clothes on our back. We got all these everything that we want. We have. So it's like, why are we feeling like this? But because of that, it's so because I do it too.
Yeah,
it's okay to feel the way you feel. Do not downplay it. Don't dismiss it because you think
just
that
compassion
you're.
It's just compassion.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to highlight that and be like, look, okay, regardless of what I have, I can still be sad. Do you know what I mean? It's okay.
I think low key, it's a way of gaslighting yourself. Even when other people say stuff like that, like, you're so lucky to have what you have. What you're feeling isn't real. There's people that have real struggle in the world. It's gaslighting.
It is gaslighting.
Because you're not actually taking opportunity to like actually acknowledge you're going through something, you're dealing with it. You need to put yourself in that space.
You need to.
I do it as like, sometimes I do it as like a humbling thing.
It's a trauma response.
Yeah, because I'd be like, that's true. Well,
it's a trauma response.
I do it like in a sense where I'm like, why am I crying? Like, honest, not for real. Like, why am I crying? Like, in my country, we have a genocide going on right now. So it's like,
exactly the same.
do you know what I mean? Like, why am I crying about anything?
Because when you've experienced the worst versions of things that have happened to you, anything else pales to comparison. Like, if you're coming from a country where people are literally getting killed just because, then you're here where you are safe. Nobody is harming you. Nothing is happening. And then maybe somebody slaps you or you get into a domestic violence situation. The fact that you know that there are people experiencing worse that are close tied to you and you're so close to that as well, your first response is, okay, it's not a big deal. But that's a trauma response. The fact that we go through things like that and our first reaction is, it's not a big deal. That is exactly what should show you something is wrong. Because if I slap you, that should signal to you that no, this is not right. So if I do that to you and your first thing is that was not the worst thing that has happened to you, there's a problem. And you need to look at that.
Wow.
I'm always like, I need to be grateful. Like, I have this and this and this. I'm rich. Like, you know.
It's true. But
I don't know how to find that balance. Because sometimes, honestly, I feel like it can be good to like try to see like light as well, to be like constantly like grateful and things like that. But it also can be detrimental. So
how do you feel like when you were an inpatient and then when you did go home and you were an outpatient, how did you like bridge that gap and how were you able to like kind of come to some sense of normality?
It was hard. I think, to be honest with you, I think I posted this the other day on my Instagram. I think the last 3 weeks are it's the first time since a very long time that I felt normal, that I felt like, okay, I've got a handle of things. I didn't. I was literally in ICU last year. Nobody knows this. I was literally in ICU last year after an attempt in August. And 4 days after coming out, I still went and I worked at an event. Like, it's people. I think the assumption is once you know what it is, once you start your healing journey, once you start your self-love journey, you're going to be fine.
That's
most
so true.
It's not like that. I kept on going up and down. Like literally the last 3-4 months of the last 5 months of this year, I'll spend it in silence. Like in my room, only getting up when I needed to go to work, like in my business, not really talking. Gratefully enough, my friends now know me. So they now know that when I sleep off and I keep quiet, they know that I'm dealing with stuff and I just need to be left alone for a little bit. So they know to check in here and there, but they know to leave me and just let me come out of that when I'm ready. So there has, in the last 3 years of coming out, there hasn't been a time where I felt like I had a handle of things up until now. And I think what has changed to me now is my life hasn't changed drastically in terms of my problems. But I think what has changed is my perspective. And my perspective now is healing is literally, like when people tell you healing is not linear, that shit is true. Now I'm at a point where I'm like, I'm probably not going to sort all of this out until the day that I die. And that's the reality. Like we all think once you get into therapy, once you talk about it, the thing about it is you go to therapy, you talk about one thing, it peels off. There's another thing. You know, you finally tell your parents, hey, I've got depression. And you think, whew, this is it. This is all I needed. But then what comes after that is how they're there for you. Now all of a sudden you're realizing how they're there or they're not there. So it's like.
And then also other things in life in the present moment are happening too. It's a constant journey of healing. And that's the thing, you're right. Like people are always like, oh, so you're better now. Like everything's better now because you just seem like you're better. It's like, what?
People would always say that to me. People would say, oh, no, you must be fine now. And I'm like,
do you just find yourself saying yes, but
Wow. Yeah. I have people that I tell the truth to and people that know for real, like what's really going on. But at the same time, I've also realized I don't have to share that part of me with every single person.
That's it.
Because not everybody's going to understand it. So now I know the people that are allowed to know that part of my life and that information about me. And then everybody else gets to know it once I've overcome it or when I want to share it.
When you're ready to.
When I'm ready to share.
That's beautiful.
And I feel like that's kind of how it has to be to protect yourself as well.
Definitely.
Yeah,
a lot of people are not deserving.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all.
And you can make it worse.
Oh, yeah. I can't tell you how many people, I've had people that I never thought had issues with me take up issue because I was talking about mental health.
Wow.
And just be like, you're seeking attention. I'm like, huh?
Oh, my God.
Attention from what? From who? Who's going to pay me for being sick? Like, what the fuck?
That's so
but
fucked
literally,
up.
Unfortunately, and that's why as human beings, I guess we're always afraid of being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what the other person's going to do with that information.
That's
so,
right.
Yeah.
That's so correct.
Yeah.
It's really good that you do have those friends that do know you and that you feel safe around.
Yep.
You know, like you don't need like a whole world of people to understand what you're going through. You just need someone.
Yeah, I think that's why it's important to like talk about things in friendships, because it wasn't up until I started telling them what I'd gone through, how I'd experienced things, that they also felt comfortable to do the same thing with me. And we've all found ways to manage each other's stuff. So even now when I say if I don't speak to people for a month, my friends know that it's not personal. I'm dealing with something, and they know that when I come back, I will literally be like, hey guys, like now I'm back. But then also now I'm like, hang on, that doesn't work as well all the time, because your friends' lives is going on. There's shit happening to them as well. So now I'm like, okay, so at the moment I'm literally making a mental health plan that by the time that I'm done making it, I'm going to send it to my friends and be like, okay, so when I do this, this is what I need. And then I'm going to need the same thing back from them, because maybe that would work better. So it's just a trial and error thing, really, at the end of the day.
What about like, you kind of just touched on it, like coping mechanisms. Like when you're going through that dark time, or like when you feel like it's flaring up again, like what are some of the things that you would do?
Honestly, it's been different things each time. I think because it's hard to say exactly what works and also what works for everyone. But I think for me, the basic concept or the basic line is get to know yourself. That way you know when things show up. So like get to know your personality, get to know how you handle things, get to know even little things like knowing how your zodiac sign handles things. I know people laugh at those things, but when you know like, oh, my Virgo friend keeps quiet when she's upset, like you don't, you know how to deal with things. So now I've gotten to know, I've become so meticulous about getting to know me. Like I've gone out of my way to really get to know myself and how I react to things. So now because I know those things and I'm self-aware, I give myself grace for how I react. So sometimes like I need to write, like that's what happened. If I were to open up my phone and show you guys how many notes I have about 500 notes on my phone from the last 6 months of me writing constantly every single day. I wasn't really going out that much, wasn't really drinking that much either, wasn't doing a lot of things. I was writing. I was in darkness, I was writing. But what I realized when I came out, I was grieving and things were coming out, and that's why I needed to write. So my thing is, and then now, because I came out of that, the next thing was I want to go back out and live life. And now my way of coping is I'm going to go out. I'm going to have a drink with a friend.
Yeah.
I'm going to call a friend. So literally it changes every single time. Yeah. But I think the key thing is to
know yourself.
Be self-aware. So you know what it looks like when it's, because it's never going to be the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's silly to say, well, not even really, but like, you can be a stranger to yourself.
Absolutely.
People don't know.
That is the word. Yes.
Like, you can honestly not know who you are in a sense. And like you said, not know when those changes in your personality occur. You just think, okay, that's just who I am.
Yeah.
But those are signs that you're missing.
Yeah.
Like you said. So it's real.
That's definitely true. I read a book. There's a book that I still reading. It's called Reinvent Your Life. It's by 2 doctors who are both psychologists and have like extensive work with depression, mental health, etc. And they talk about what are called schemas. These are like traits that we develop to counter like negative things that we've come across. So for me, one of my biggest schemas was when I'm going through something, I withdraw, I keep quiet, I internalize. I didn't realize I internalized things up until literally like a month ago. Because for the whole 3-5 months that I was just quiet, there was so much that was going on in my life and I was just internalizing and it was my fault. It was, you need to do this, you need to do that. Then slowly, as I started slipping out of that through writing, I started realizing what other people do to contribute to my mental health state, to contribute to the deterioration of my own mental health. Yeah. And I went, so it's not all about me. And that's the thing with mental health, that it literally impedes on every single aspect of your life. Yeah. That you at some point have to, like you're saying, if you're a stranger to yourself, how much of a stranger are you to the people around you?
Yeah.
Like you won't even notice how your own friends contribute to your detriment of your well-being.
Yeah.
So it's like you need to become more self-aware and start to know yourself enough to know how you're reacting to things, but also know yourself enough to know how other people are treating you that contributes to where you are.
That's really interesting because I'm always blaming myself. It's no one else's fault. It's always me. Man, if I did this and this, if you know, like it's always my fault. Like, you know, like with anything, it's not this, like, you know. And I can understand why other people are like that, but I can't understand
why you're like that.
Yeah,
that was me, and that was why even like with the whole saving people thing, when people would try to help me, I would feel weak. And it was only from my friends, like a few select friends, that I was like, okay, because they're my friends, because I've been there for them, so it was okay. Anybody else that I feel like I'd never been there for, it was like, no, don't worry about it, I'm good. Because I felt like people don't have to help me. I'm the one who needs to continuously help people. Yep. I've always internalized everything. A breakup, me. Family issues, me. Personal problems, me. Business, me. Anything, it's always been me. Yeah. But what that does is it stops you from seeing what else is contributing to you. So when I started looking for solutions on how to deal with mental health all this time, it was all things about me. But what it does is your walls build up. And you tend to literally become an enemy of yourself because you're only seeing your mistakes. You're not seeing everybody else's contribution. And at some point, and it's confronting to have to do that because not everybody's willing to listen. But at some point, it's like you also have to understand that there's the whole concept of nature and nurturing. Something happened for you to become that way. And those things you need to find out what they are because that's the only way you can like uproot the issues that you have type of things. So it's messy.
Goosebumps.
Healing is messy.
I feel like, just speechless.
Speechless.
I don't have words today. I feel like I'm always talking, but like, wow.
It's messy. It's a messy journey.
Can we,
we're on hour 3.
Okay. Just like touching on like therapy and things like that, right? Like I've had my own experience with seeing a therapist and things like that. I think a lot of people also shy away from not seeing a therapist or maybe stopping is that with your first experience, people like you never honestly, it's rare for you to like connect with the first therapist that you see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I also had like these preconceived ideas of how therapy would go because of what shows and movies would show us. The couch. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or maybe laying down. You know what I mean? Like honestly, I swear I thought it was going to be like that. So, like I remember like with my experience, my first one was horrible. I was just sitting there like, why am I even here? Like I didn't even talk. He was just talking the whole time. Yeah. But like I found someone else and I went and it was kind of like, I went with the idea like, like you said, I'm going in with the idea, okay, I'm dealing with this, let me just talk about this. And then I end up leaving with shit that I didn't even think about. Like, you just go into this world and you're just like, whoa.
Yeah.
You like it's like an onion. You have so many layers, you know what I mean?
You really think it's just about that one thing.
issue.
Yeah.
But there's like 110 other things that are
literally. And it's
that.
like kind of like what we said before. We don't label things. So we don't know where things are rooted from.
Yeah.
So when we start to go in and talk about these things, it's really
You're like, damn, I went through that.
Exactly.
Damn.
Isn't that weird when you do that? When you say something and then you watch somebody else react and you're like, oh, I didn't realize that was a big deal.
Yeah, because it's just been a norm for you.
Yeah. And even as humans, like, man, we can suppress stuff.
That's on period, man. For
like,
real.
there's things that I suppress where I don't even remember it. And it's not, and it's just a moment where it's like a blackout. Like, I don't remember that part of my life.
Yeah. That's the horrible part about healing, because now when you start to process and you're doing there, and that's what I hate so much about. Yeah, like everybody makes healing seem so rosy and it's the best thing you ever do. I'm sorry, healing is the worst thing you'd ever do for yourself. It sucks because you're literally in and out of feelings all the freaking time. Like when I went to a therapist last year, and then by my second session, she brought something up, and I was like, I was like, nope, we're not doing that. And I didn't go back.
You didn't go back?
I didn't go back because I was like, we're not going there. I was like,
we're not going down that road.
Yeah, I was like, don't open that box. What you doing, sis? No. But then now, because I've come out on the other side, I'm like, okay, maybe I can go back.
It's kind of like that old saying that we always do mention on this podcast, like ignorance is bliss sometimes.
It is.
You don't need to open that box.
It's true.
Keep it locked.
But then at the same time, when you keep that box closed, you don't know what doors you're closing for yourself.
Exactly.
Like
that
you
box
don't
gets
know
bigger
what
and bigger.
exactly. You don't know what else is gonna keep on stacking inside there because you're not actually.
You really
opening
do
it
have
up.
to. You have to. You
Yeah.
have to do it.
It's true.
That was even like what you were saying before about suppressing your feelings to the point of forgetting. Like I had that where all of a sudden one day I just remembered everything I went through when I was like, you know, like younger and things that I literally had trained myself to forget. Like it's so intense. Like you can, and then you're just like, oh my God, and then you feel everything and it's like, oh, now I can't forget, you know?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Damn, you're making me want to go back to therapy.
No, I'm going back. Do you guys ever feel like it's a fog? Do you ever get that feeling?
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah?
Like that fog. Yeah,
me too. I feel like that.
Yeah.
And then it clears up and you're like,
Or like you don't remember the whole thing. Is that what you mean? Yeah, you remember little bits. Yeah, for
And
sure.
sometimes like the smallest thing that you see, like I don't like random, but like if I saw a certain flower, let's just say that can set off a memory.
yes.
And then it just triggers that to come.
Or like something that happens
smells, man.
again.
anything, song,
Did you
anything,
say
movies.
smell?
Yeah.
For me, it smells.
Yeah.
Smells? Yeah. I will smell something and next thing, boom.
Wow.
It just
back
Memory
there.
comes back.
Yeah.
Or even it just makes you think of someone and you're like, damn.
Yeah.
Even colors, like there's certain colors that if I think of that color, it just.
Yeah.
I agree.
And
Colors
I'm
for
like,
me too.
Ew.
Yeah.
Emotions.
Wow.
Girl, you got me thinking deep.
I know.
For real, man.
Honestly,
We're
you
going to
really.
need wine after this.
Yeah, for real. Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
But do you know what it is though? Like going back to this topic on therapy, I feel like for me, a lot of reasons why I've been to therapists and kind of been like, you know, like when they say don't be a sheep for every single flock.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
I feel like I've been to therapists, like not to hate on white people, but who just don't understand my worldview
Yeah.
and
That's
like
so
my
true.
perception of life
Yeah.
and don't have like that cultural understanding.
Yeah.
Which means that we've had like a massive barrier, like when they've addressed things and they've like said certain things that I should do to try and like alleviate some of that stress.
Yeah.
It's just been something that it's not possible. Like I
Like,
can't
yo, how
do
would
that.
you know?
Exactly. Like it's just something that's just like a cultural, like it's not a cultural norm.
Yeah.
So I feel like sometimes that's something that's really difficult for us as like
Diversity
young
is needed.
people
Yeah.
of
We
the
do.
diaspora.
It's hard though. But like honestly,
It's
like
very hard. Doesn't mean
I
you should
agree
give up.
with you. I agree with you. But
yeah,
even
100%.
going to an African like can also be hard. They can be
For sure.
judgmental.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
And then they also, because the thing is, it's so frustrating because whoever you see and unfortunately, is always going to use a filter of their culture, their own experiences.
Yeah.
Because when you go to an African, you're like, okay, they'll get me. But then if it's a much older person, they're sitting there and you're like, my mom does this, like, oh, that's normal.
That's normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
That's
like,
it.
Yeah.
what you mean?
But then I feel like it's also important to try and educate as well. As much as you're using that space to like vent and release and get rid of what you're feeling, not necessarily get rid, but you're trying to like overcome it. I think it's also important to educate that person on the other side of the seat.
Yeah.
Because if they're taking on that role of caring for you and you're trusting them in caring for you, they also need to be able to look at you as a holistic person. Like, because I think that's part of being a health professional at the end of the day. You're looking at the person as like as a whole, their culture, what they identify as, their background, like physical ability, like all of those things. So it's important that as clinicians, like sometimes they don't bring their own.
It's not all textbook.
Values.
It's always not textbook. Yeah,
it's not.
No,
But
it can't be.
but I just wanted to repeat, like, even if you don't, it's important for everyone to see a therapist at least one time in your life. But it's also just like, if you don't connect, keep going. Don't give up. Don't give up. Like, onto the next one. Shop around.
Yeah. Shop around. Literally shop around.
Yeah, you may not connect with the first 5, but that 6th one could be that person for you. You know.
That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I
So
also
important.
think it's so important as like young black people to know there's nothing wrong with going to therapy.
Nothing.
There's nothing wrong.
Don't
There's
listen to
nothing wrong with
Nah.
feeling sad.
Exactly. For real.
It doesn't make you any less strong.
Yeah.
You're still strong. You're stronger.
I think the
Did
fact
you
that you're
guys-
able to talk about it makes you even stronger, man.
Yeah.
Literally.
What were you saying?
Did you guys see the article? It wasn't an article. It was actually an article that came out describing how like a new term of the kind of depression or sadness that we had around the pandemic.
No.
I will send that to you guys. When I read that, I went, that's exactly what I was feeling.
Wow.
And I remember I don't know if you guys know Hawea. Hawea?
No.
No? Okay, cool. She's this amazing girl that I follow online. She's from Perth, but she posted it and I read it and I went, huh? That's exactly how I was feeling. And I felt like I just wish we could talk more. And that's probably what I found now. Talk to your friends.
Yeah.
If therapy is too much for you, if therapy is whatever, if you don't talk, write. That's my two things.
Yeah.
Talk and write. Like people are so, and I think we're all experiencing the same things. We're all going through similar difficulties that a lot of people at this point are now aware of what it looks like, what depression, anxiety. But if nobody's talking in our friendships, in our relationships, I'm a huge, like I've said thoroughly through and through, I would never want to be with somebody who does not understand mental health.
Yeah.
For me, that's not a prerequisite.
Me too.
I need to know if you've been to therapy. I need to know if you're aware of your childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Not to the extent of you've healed. I just need to know if you have the basic awareness, because I need to be in a relationship. I need to be around friends. I need to be around groups where people understand that. Because I feel like if you can't talk to your friend, if you can't talk to your family, if you can't talk to the people around you, that's why we find it difficult to go talk to a stranger.
Communicate.
Because,
Oh
you know,
my God, that is so true.
I completely
Rumbiie, you're
agree.
really coming for me today.
I told you
to
I've
my
been
soul,
writing.
But that is so true.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
But I also that also comes back to that thing of like you need to be around people who are feeding your soul,
Yeah.
and who you feed their soul as well.
Yes. Yep.
Like
Yes.
Naz always says, you can't be around yes people all the time.
No.
But
Yeah.
yes, everything you said, yes, every part of it.
It's
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, in regards to that, do you have like any resources, like anything that you found helpful throughout your journey that you could recommend to any other young people and just people in general who might be going through a similar experience?
quite a lot. So obviously, first thing first, your GP.
Yeah.
Go to your GP. If anything ever comes up, if you've got any questions, if you're even slightly concerned, your GP is like your starting point, and then they'll direct you to therapists and ATC. But other than that, there's also an organization that I work with, which is Sisters Healing Space, and they have like a directory of women of color therapists and counselors. So that's a really good resource
amazing.
as well.
Wow.
And obviously, like the ones that we have, like Lifeline, Headspace.
Yep.
you know, those are really, like, when it comes to the society that we live in and the country that we live in, we're lucky that they already have those structures. They might need help, they might need changes, but the fact that they're there, reach out to them and they can direct you to know where to go. So those are like my main resources, really.
Yeah.
Your GP first.
Yeah, and I think even with your GP, like, people sometimes shy away from seeing a therapist because they sometimes think it's, you know, dollar.
Yes.
But it's like, if you go to your GP, you can get a mental health care plan, and it's like you get 10 free sessions.
Yeah. And your work. Every single person, if you've got a job, your job has your job offers 10 every financial year, 10 free sessions every single financial year. Wow. So you're allowed to actually go to your manager or your supervisor and say, hey, I need our counseling number, and then you can go to them. And it doesn't have to be anything relating to your job. As long as it concerns you, you can access those 10 ones.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
I didn't even know that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh my goodness. Should we wrap?
Yeah. Well, Rumbiie, thank you so much for joining us here at the Left Out Podcast. It's been an absolutely amazing conversation and
amazing. Yeah. Very educational, very inspiring. Actually, I feel numb.
You know, like when your soul just feels like it's full. Yeah.
It's full.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being you.
Yeah,
you're such a beautiful person.
Y'all gonna make me cry.
But honestly, keep going. Like, it's so important. Like, think about it. Like, your advocating led you to come on here, like, for us to even hear about it. So it's it's amazing. So
thank you. I appreciate
don't give up on that.
Thank you so much for joining us in this space. It really does mean a lot. Thank you so much for our listeners for joining us during Mental Health Week. Well, a little bit of a week early, but still.
You get the gist.
We get the gist, yeah. All of the links and all of the organizations that Rumbiie mentioned will be available on our link tree. Yeah, so thank you guys for joining into the Left Out Podcast. It's your local stallion, your local bad girl, Miss Youre.
It's Vebs.
It's Naz. A special guest,
Rumbiie.
Yes, thank you guys.
Thank
Bye.
you.